Don't worry, I'm not going to sing. That's not going to happen tonight. But we thank you all for being here. And now I'd like to introduce Seth MacFarlane and Joe McNeely. Who got the idea that they were so in love with Christmas? And how drunk was one of
I got really liquored up and converted to Christianity, and then sobered up, and it went away. We had done the first album, Music Is Better Than Words, and the record label suggested, hey, if you want to do another one of these, a Christmas record might be a good fit, and it was something that hadn't occurred to either of us, I think. But it seemed like thematically something that might be kind of fun, so we ran with it, and this is what we came up with.
So it was kind of a mutual thing, or which one of you did you go to Joel and say, yeah, come on, we'll do it? Or did he come to you and say, we need to do it?
I don't remember, do you?
No,
So
neither of us remember.
there was a lot of alcohol involved. It's okay, but it turned out so well. So that's...
We were happy. We're happy with the way it turned out.
Yeah. So the reason behind it is that you're in love with those songs, or you're in love with something else behind the songs?
Well, I mean, I don't know. You have to speak for yourself. I'm not an avid fan of Christmas music necessarily.
Scrooge MacFarlane.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
It was just me and my cat this year, man. But I do, I love the genre of orchestral jazz, which is so closely linked to so much Christmas music. So it was not a big leap. But we did try to pick stuff that was not quite as done as albums that we've heard before. We've heard White Christmas and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and these songs 1,000 times before. It's like singing "Come Fly With Me." You're not going to do it better than Sinatra, so why try? So we picked a few songs that people will know, and then some other songs that are kind of undiscovered gems, we hope. And that's half the fun, is ideally being the first person in years to try and interpret something that's been forgotten and to reinvent it.
What's one of those songs that are forgotten? On Christmas Dreaming, I know is one of them.
Well, that was one that you found.
Yeah, Christmas Dreaming is a really obscure song. In fact, we could only find one recording of it, which was Sinatra, right? Yeah.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
So
But I
who
mean,
would know?
it was a very early. It was a very early recording, and I'm not aware that anybody else has recorded it. Or I'm sure they have, but we couldn't find it.
Well, I think we should hear one of the songs. What was it that you would like to hear right now?
I don't know. I said you could pick them. I don't give
All
a
right.
shit.
Well, I want to start because I'll just pick them, even ones that aren't on the album. I'll just say,
You can play whatever you want.
I noticed that this album does not have a lot of.
You
Come
can
to
play the
major
Carpenters'
songs.
"Top of the World" if you want right now. I'm not going to stop you.
How did you know I was?
You
No, I'm not
actually like the Carpenters?
No,
I love the Carpenters.
Carpenters. See, there's confessions tonight. You're hearing all this. No, I would be, for my own odd, bizarre, twisted reasons, I would like to hear a little of "Baby It's Cold Outside."
Sure.
That you duet with Sarah.
With Sarah Bareilles, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
In fact, we're doing it live right now at the Christmas tree lighting.
How's that going?
Brilliant bit of scheduling.
Wow, good.
That's
Set your DVRs.
Peter, you can only stare into my eyes for so long while this is happening.
Just like
My mother will start to worry.
Just three guys sitting on a stage, silently listening to Christmas music.
listen to the fireplace.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Better scream.
Beautiful, please don't hurry.
Anyway, they get to go home tomorrow, so they're in a relaxed, mellow mood.
You don't get to go home?
I get to go home, but I live here.
Do you not
in
want
New
to go
York,
home?
where it's
Is there
Christmas.
trouble at home?
Never. In New York, there's only good. If you go and watch the lighting of the tree tonight, you will be pummeled and pushed, and all kinds of non-Christmassy things.
What was the question?
I don't remember. I know there was a big call for Mele Kalikimaka,
Oh,
which
right,
is
yeah.
the Hawaiian way
The Hawaiian
to
Christmas
say
song.
Merry Christmas
Yeah.
to you. Joel, was I musical when I said that?
This is, by the way, this is a great. I say this often. The art of orchestration is something that is vanishing or vanished, and by that I mean, if you listen to a Sinatra song, because nobody had better arrangers than he did, and you pull the vocals out of that, you still hear this awesome orchestral track. There's a lot going on with the orchestra, and that's become something that's very dull nowadays. And one of the things that Joel can do, and I think he's one of like 5 guys left who can do it, is really command an orchestra so that there's jokes in the arrangements. There's fun stuff going on. He's got a Hawaiian guitar in there. And that's something that I would love to hear more of, and we just don't get enough of it. So this is a good example of that done well by this guy.
Well, we should say, too, that you recorded this live with the orchestra. This isn't done. And you were with real human breathing musicians?
Well, we did it. It's the second album that we've done that way. Yeah,
Yeah.
with about 60 musicians. And we wanted to do it the way that they did it 50 years ago, where your prep is done before you record and not in post-production, where you'd spend 3 days recording the album. What you do in the studio is what's on the record. You do it with the orchestra, so everyone is in the same room, breathing the same air, and you kind of feed off of each other, and it just makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and there's no isolation, right? There's nobody in a booth. The drums are sitting next to the violin, so everything's leaking in all the mics, which is a part of the old sound. One thing I wanted to say about the recording of this, though, is it was done in Abbey Road Studios in London in Studio 2, which is, for me, holy ground. You genuflect when you walk through those doors, because that's where about 95% of all the Beatles songs were recorded, and the room has not changed since the days that the Beatles recorded there. So it's a very special place. The vibe is really, really great.
So, because you're dealing with Seth while this is happening, is he dictatorial when he's in there, or does he listen to you at all? Since you did arrange everything, are there points during the process where he says, "Who the hell came up with this? I can't sing this."
We have those moments ahead of time.
I see.
I do these arrangements, and we figure these things out together. We come up, a lot of times he'll come up with a concept for a tempo or a style for the song. And then in the case of Mele Kalikimaka, which is, my day job is film music, and I was writing this arrangement, and I just had this kind of daydream about walking through a jungle. Everything's murky and creepy, and suddenly you come into a clearing, and there's this luau going on with all these people bouncing around in the in grass skirts and whatnot. And so I made that a part of the story of the arrangement. You hear that story in the arrangement. It makes no sense whatsoever other than it amused me while I was working on it.
So
And part of it too is connecting. You know, we also start on the same page. So part of it is you know, it's like a casting process. It's like you want to be working with someone who already kind of gets the things that
already
you
knows
get.
your craziness.
And you know, as Joel and I have talked about, you know, we live in an age where everything has to be mocked up with a synthesizer for the producer to hear. And Joel wrote this amazing score for A Million Ways to Die in the West. And you know, we did it the old-fashioned way, where he gets the film, he writes the music, and then we go and we hear it with the orchestra the first time when it's being recorded. So you can't, you know,
Which is
nitpick and-
unprecedented. Doesn't happen anymore. The level of trust, you know, just allowing a composer to write. He says, "I trust you. I'll hear it at the session." That never happens, and it was very freeing as a composer.
I bet it would be. And it's also liberating when we should hear it. We should hear a little bit of Mele Kalikimaka, especially with Joel's very strange daydreams, so that we can experience them with you in the room.
If you listen to Joel's instrumental break in the middle, it's what we're talking about. Yeah, this, yeah.
I was thinking of a guy tap dancing.
So there's a lot going on there. And it's just kind of a ballsy, fun sound that you don't hear anymore. And again, he's awesome, this guy.
He is. But this is also called Holiday for Swing. And it does. It has a real... I don't expect to hear that kind of arrangement on this, which is what's so refreshing about it. You really hear that.
Yeah, well, you hear. I mean, if you listen to the Capitol arrangements on the old Sinatra records, you're hearing xylophones. You're hearing stuff that's light and buoyant and it kind of mixes itself. It's fun. It's fun stuff. It's like not afraid to be funny and whimsical at times, and I think that's what you don't see a lot of now.
And touching. Now, Joel, at what point did you cry hearing him sing?
Well, that's kind of between me and him. If you don't. Yeah.
But I know it happened.
No, I mean, I want to kind of comment on what Seth just said about these arrangements. What the fun thing is that we're both starting from the same point of a love for this music of that time, and Seth is a real connoisseur, really knows the music, knows it better than I do for sure, and so we're already kind of, this is the pool we're going to swim in, these are the colors we're going to use.
We were both in the pool. That's when you cried.
And so it just makes it easy because we know what the confines are, and he's a very knowledgeable dude about this music.
But it sounds like you two are having the really best time in Abbey Road doing this. And how do you separate yourself from having this good time to listening back to it and saying, is this coming across what we were feeling?
It's two separate parts of your brain. And I for example, when I record Family Guy, and I go back to, I do occasionally, I still do it. There's a part of the brain that is at work when you're performing, and then that part switches off, and another part lights up when you're listening back. And you almost get to the point where you're able to treat it as though you're hearing another person. And it just becomes habit. So that's something that it's certainly easier to do on a record, because there's a bigger space of time between when you record it and when you listen back for the first time. But
well, people will also notice when they're listening to it, and I'm sure they're all getting it now, that CD, or they're just foolish. They're getting it now. But they will notice that there is no song sung by Ted or by Stewie or by any of those other characters. Is this a conscious decision on your part?
Yeah, I mean,
They keep it pure, aren't you?
Yeah, this all came about when I had done a live special on Fox with Alex Borstein, who does Lois on Family Guy, and it was like a combination music sketch. It was like a one-off. We did one of them, and we had a live orchestra there on stage, and Universal Republic Records said, "Hey, this was fun. Would you want to do a record of some kind?" And they kind of left it up to me. They said, "Anything you want to do, we'll do it." And I said, "Well, I'm up to my ass in comedy, so I'd like to do something like this. This is another love of mine. I love classic orchestral arrangements. I love this genre of music. It's just an era of high musicality that's unmatched to this day." And they astonishingly said, "All right, go ahead." And we recorded that first album in Capital A, which is where Sinatra recorded a lot of his stuff. We used his mic. It's still in existence.
It's history there, but I just keep thinking that late at night, or I don't know how many days you were actually recording that Joel, you would know this, that he snuck over to the mic and, did White Christmas as sung by Ted. He never did it. He stayed pure.
We took this as a very serious project, and it was very honest. We were coming at it from a standpoint of wanting to be true to the music and get it as authentic as possible. To that end, we recorded live to analog tape. That's a very different sound, the way they used to record it, and it's even difficult now to buy analog tape. There are only a few factories in the world that actually manufacture the stuff. but we did it live to tape, and we had complete performances from the orchestra instead of the security that studio players have. Well, we'll fix it if there's any problems. We'll punch in here, we'll do that, we'll layer it over. This was a performance, so there was a level of commitment from the players who were on the edge of their chairs because they knew if they screwed up in the last 4 bars and the trumpets missed the last high C or something, we all went back to the beginning and started over. And that made this kind of collective energy where everyone was really on it.
Except for the guy or the woman who screwed up. You know, if you got through most of it and then somebody made that mistake. How many musicians were you working with there?
It was about 55, yeah.
Yeah, and they're all the same players that play on Family Guy and American Dad every week. I mean, they're studio musicians who just do this every day, and I mean, they're. It always seems to me that the more I deal with those people, I was thinking to myself, you know, the most famous trumpet player, or clarinet player, or what have you, whatever instrument you can think of. There's probably an anonymous studio player working in film who blows them out of the water because they just have to do it every day, all day. And the stuff you hear from these guys is astonishing. What these guys can do and what they can do on a dime. You know, if you ask them to play in a different style and they can do it on a dime brilliantly, they're an amazing bunch.
Well, I have to ask, before I turn the questions over to the audience, a movie question, since I'm the movie guy. And there's a song on the album called Snow, which is from White Christmas and is sung by Bing Crosby, by Danny Kaye, by Rosemary Clooney, and Vera Ellen. 4 people. Yep. But Seth does it all by himself. He's all of those.
Well, Rosemary Clooney did do a recording of that song solo.
She did.
At one point, yeah.
And so that's your excuse for that.
That's my excuse.
But in the movie White Christmas, no.
It's the 4 of them.
It's
yeah.
just
Sitting at that table.
the 4 of them doing it.
On the train.
That's on the train, yes. So was that what inspired you? You had seen that movie, even though we know you hate Christmas?
I mean, yeah. It's we like to do songs where there's no cheating. You know, you can't kind of slip into Sinatra's version because, you know, if you sing White Christmas, you kind of, at least for me, I kind of can't help but slip into the cadences of Crosby because I've heard it so many times. And Snow is a song that there's no cheat sheet for that. You just have to kind of do it fresh, and particularly with the arrangement that Joel wrote, which is a brand new arrangement. And has so much life to it. You can't lean on anything, which is half the fun.
Yeah, and Seth had the idea of taking this song, which is almost always done as a kind of a medium bouncy song, and he said, let's amp this up and do it really fast, like a super fast up-tempo number. I don't know that there's another arrangement of Snow that's done, you know, that's fast.
I don't think people know that song. They see White Christmas every year on TV, but that's not the one they remember. And so I congratulate you for doing that. Even though you will go occasionally back to the perennial, there's a lot on this CD that doesn't do that. And
it's a balance. I mean, there's also the reality that people like to hear songs that they know, and it's more fun to find obscurities and make and reinvent them. So it is a balance. I mean, there's stuff that's, you know, there's a mix of this album probably leans more heavily towards the forgotten chestnuts, but there's a little of both.
Yeah, there was a few songs I'd never even heard
When
before.
the fuck
like
did I become the guy who
White
uses
Christmas.
that word?
Yeah.
like Everybody's Waiting for the Man with the Bag. I'd never heard that song before.
And that was something that came from your life that you wanted to put on this CD. You're waiting for a man with a bag. Really? Okay.
That's half my weekend, pal.
Yeah. I don't even want to go there. I think it's
Waiting
time.
for the man with the bag.
Yeah. It's time for the audience to speak.
I usually have to go to his place, though.
Yeah. I didn't mean to take you there. I was feeling Snow. I was feeling it.
It's like taking your life in your hands, that part of town.
It genuinely is. Okay, audience, it's your turn to seize the day.
Hi, how's it going? Big fan. 2 questions. First, what's another type of genre of music you might want to work on? And can you please say Cool Whip?
Jesus Christ.
All right, first of all, Cool Whip. I'll bark like a seal. You want me to bark like a seal?
I mean, gosh, you know, it's a good question. I mean, you do have to know your limitations. I wouldn't ever try to do, you know, like a metal album. I don't think I'd be very good at it. There are some kind of great Sinatra recordings where he did kind of make that leap, and some of them work, and some of them are just misfires. But they're all interesting because they kind of indicate that however well you fit in one genre, when you do try to make that leap, oftentimes you can be just a total square peg in a round hole. There's a Sinatra recording of Downtown, the Petula Clark song, which is fantastically hilarious because he does this thing in the middle where he goes, downtown, downtown, down. It's the strangest thing you've ever heard. And you know, so I think the point is that if know your limitations, Truman.
Hi, my question is for Joel. So when you were coming up with the arrangements for all these songs, I'm just wondering if you can talk about finding the balance between modernizing them and tailoring them for a more modern audience and keeping them true to their original versions.
Yeah, it's a good question. I didn't think about, in fact, the opposite. I wanted to not have any kind of modern aspect to it. Those aspects primarily come in terms of harmony. There are certain harmonies that if I were to going into the 60s and 70s style of arranging, I would allow myself to use those harmonies, but I restricted myself from using certain harmonies, certain chord voicings, which might read a little more modern. I just felt like, as I said, the palette that was established was one from the 40s and 50s, and so I was very careful not to hopefully break out of that.
Hi, I just want to first say you're incredibly talented. And so I have two questions. Oh, both of you are incredibly talented. All right. So first, was there any song in particular that you had real trouble getting through without making a mistake and had to record over and over again? And second, have you considered moving into, working on Broadway or writing your own musical or something?
I mean, it's I mean, the first question, Man with the Bag was probably the most challenging. Everybody's waiting for the Man with the Bag because there's a lot going on in that song. It's a pretty fast-moving tune, and you got to race through it while at the same time showing colors. But again, Joel writes arrangements that are just infectious. You hear them, and they just kind of get your energy going, which is, there's something to be said for a great orchestration, what it does for your vocal. It does a lot. And as far as a Broadway show, yeah, I mean, we've talked about it. I've considered it. It takes a certain amount of time. I love writing. So, we wrote a song for Amanda Seyfried that she sings in Ted 2 that we love, that she sounds great singing it, and that was a blast, to write music for somebody, and that was with Walter Murphy, who writes music for Family Guy, and it was, it was fun. Yeah, I'd love to do that at some point. It takes a good year or two of your life, I think, to commit to it, so it would have to be when Ted 2 is done, but maybe.
Hi, Seth.
Hey, is that your question?
No, I just want to say hi, and that I'm a really big fan. And what's your favorite Family Guy episode?
I don't know where the hell you are. Oh, there you are. Okay, all right. You're not large, are you?
You really can't see.
I can't see a damn thing. My favorite Family Guy episode this is going to be a disappointment to you. It's probably the Agatha Christie Clue episode that we did.
Wait, that's my favorite episode.
Oh my God, let's get married.
Yeah, no, I just want to know what kind of freaks you out, like besides that voice. Like, in
All right, we
day-to-day,
found the weed guy.
Yeah, you have so many different genres of like what you do. You're a director, you're a writer, you animate. I mean, like, what do you find most fulfilling to you in the day-to-day that you? I don't know. You work at a lot of different things. I mean, help me out here. Look at me. Is my question not clear?
What freaks me out, or what do I mean? God, I mean, this kind of stuff is the most fulfilling. Like that when I'm in the studio and with an orchestra and working with somebody like Joel, that's probably when I'm enjoying myself the most. I mean, I was probably the most freaked out at any point in my career right before I did A Million Ways to Die in the West. That was when I was the most scared, because it was such an undertaking, and at the same time, it's that's when I kind of feel the most invigorated, when I'm doing something that's new and scary. And I don't go skydiving, I don't bungee jump, so in lieu of that, I do this kind of stuff. But yeah.
So since we're getting weird with the questions, I figured I'd just kind of roll with that. So the last time I saw you, Seth, you were at Harvard receiving the Humanist
There you
of
are.
the Year. Hi. So
Did you go to Harvard?
I did research there. Yeah. So yeah.
Anyone who has anything to do with Harvard, it always takes them like 20 seconds
Yeah.
before they bring it up.
No. Forget it. No.
There's no real
a
question, is there,
narrative
ma'am?
here. No. So last time I saw you there, I told my dad, who is a huge fan of yours, that I saw you receive the award, which, by the way, your acceptance speech was like awesome. You don't need me to tell you that, but it was awesome. And
No, I need constant validation.
that's all I wanted.
What'd you
to
do
know.
your research? What'd you do? What were you researching at Harvard?
So I developed treatment protocols to test for basically treating people with severe mental illness. Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, now I do it here. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, just to bring the mood down.
I
a
make
little
shit
bit.
jokes on TV. Your move.
And a record. Thanks.
Hey Seth, hey Joel. I just have a quick question. So, which one of you picked the cover art? And is that your good side? I don't know.
We tried a lot of options, and this felt like the kind of thing that was fit with the arrangements. The arrangements are all like, fuck you, it's Christmas. The orchestra is going to have fun, we're going to have fun, everybody's going to be happy, and it's going to feel authentic and lush and warm, and it was a gamble, but at the end of the day, it was an honest gamble, and it felt like something that fit with the it was my idea is the short version.
And it's a painting by Matthew Peak. So it's not just Photoshop or anything. It was a 5x5 painting. Huge.
And again, it's the same. All goes hand in hand with our practice of doing it the way they did it 50 years ago. If you look at the old Sinatra albums or Nat King Cole albums, they're paintings in a lot of cases. They're interpretations, and so figured, what the hell?
It's a tribute. It is. It's an homage to all of that. Now, I don't know what we all just did here, but I know that we all thank you, Joel and Seth, for being here.
Thank you, Peter Travers.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys. The brilliant Joel McNeely.
Brilliant Seth MacFarlane.